Hi, my name is Armando. I've been wanting to find a way to make this live on the internet, and YouTube seems to be the best bet. So here goes, here goes nothing. Um, don't have too much for video editing skills. Not exactly camera literate, so bear with me on this. But I am the reason Jeffrey Epstein was arrested for the second time. I know that is a slap in the face to the dozens of women who came forward, often directly to the FBI with allegations. I didn't even accuse them of the sex trafficking stuff. Thought that was pretty much a given, I guess. Uh, but what it was that whole that 6-7, like that's part of it. Like not to sound all conspiratorial, but it was a conspiracy against America, basically anti-government stuff, as that was put by Elon Musk. That's what got him arrested. It definitely was charged with the other stuff they had him on. Basically, it was open and shut case on those. But that allowed them to, would have allowed them to make him talk essentially. If you wanted off the hook, he was gonna have to spill his guts, but that definitely did not happen. So, as for why I turned him in, it's kind of like I have to tell a little bit of a story about what I was doing at the time. So from like 2014 to 2018, I was driving truck. Drove truck a little bit past that also, but I was working gigs down in like South Florida, and it put me across from a golf course like more often than not, like whenever I needed to get fuel. And there was gentlemen who would come across and just like talk like small talk, just chit chat with the worker, and it was good times. Like I appreciated it, but every once in a while I would hear the most depraved stories of humanity. Like these men had both sides essentially, and I learned some things along the way that made me hate Jeffrey Epstein. Um, but 2018, my final encounter before I decided to go forward. I didn't go forward directly to the FBI. I don't know if that even would have gotten anywhere. I went to an aide of the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. At the time, he had been just recently elected. Um, but come to find out, they were already planning the subsequent election, the 2024 election between Harris and Trump. And Walz had already been tapped, even as he had just been elected governor. He had already been tapped for that VP spot. So it was like kind of shocking to hear. And I, as someone who had worked on the John Kerry campaign, like we had reasonable expectations. Like no one thought from the moment we started working at that campaign, like Kerry was barely even campaigning. We had this joke. John Kerry walked into a bar. Bartender says, "Hey, John Kerry, why the long face?" And I mean, on the surface, it's like a superficial joke about his appearance, but it was definitely about the state of that. I don't know. From what I heard, his wife needed the CIA's help down in South Africa or some shit, and like he volunteered to run a failed election or failed campaign where he had no chance of election just to secure the nomination for George Bush. And then this whole Harris nomination was supposedly, according to my contact, my mutual contact of Jeffrey Epstein, was mind control, believe it or not, on Chuck Schumer. That's what the claim was. And just claiming that, like just claiming that you mind controlled a U.S. senator is gonna get some questions. Like they're gonna not just let that one just slide by as long as it's like submitted in a way it's believable. But I had a whole host of information. Um, I have no idea who this guy was. Like I just know he came from the golf course. So who he was talking to at the golf course, I mean, we can guess, but from what I know, Epstein at that time was hanging out there. So he could have just been meeting Epstein. I don't know. Really doesn't matter. It doesn't make much of a difference to me. But the things this man told me, like he told me that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein ate a human child together while planning the war in Iran. This is back in 2018. And they were fully aware that the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz would result basically in 1 billion deaths. And so that's why they chose a human child as their dinner. I don't know. That's what the rumor was. That's what this man told me. So definitely included that one also. Um, what else do I got? So, as is the man I was talking to, so there's multiple conversations with multiple men over the years, but this 2018 conversation is one I'm referencing now. So he's the one who mind control on Chuck Schumer. He's the one who talked about talking to Joe Biden about leaving the weapons in Afghanistan. Like that was a huge thing in his presidency that he forgot these weapons. Like the contract ran out and we couldn't even be bothered to destroy them because it was on paper we had to leave and blah blah blah. Like that was disastrous to his presidency. Not that it made much of a difference, but apparently the real story to that is we knew of Russian aggression prior to, like, I mean it was pretty obvious, like they annexed Crimea, like not by singing Kumbaya. So like already had some Russian aggression, so it shouldn't have been too much of a surprise. But apparently the intel like was stating that there was chances of that second round of going back at Ukraine. And so the decision to leave the weapons there was basically since Russia was on the warpath, we didn't want them sneaking up behind us, like coming through the back door and giving us surprises if it came to it while we were invading Iran. So by leaving those weapons there, basically they would stay out of Afghanistan because the Taliban would be more heavily armed. So they wouldn't be able to just walk on through in their active aggression. Not that they were able to walk on through on Ukraine either. But part of this information, just that knowledge that Russia was going on the warpath, apparently that hadn't been shared yet with NATO. So good for me, I guess. Like apparently I'm the one who provided that little tidbit that got NATO the knowledge of Russian aggression, which gave Ukraine a little bit of a better chance. What else? Apparently during the entire first Trump presidency, there were Chinese spy satellites flying over America. And like part of this was like deliberate. Like there was this plan, the whole Epstein plan, the conspiracy against America was during the Iran war. We were supposed to just charge Kharg Island and all of our sailors, all of our Marines, like any army that was stupid enough to keep on following and just like joining the meat grinder. Like every last sailor would have been turned into pink mist essentially by the mines. Like they built a lot of those things, like a lot. Like they had one like aircraft carrier, but I mean we're talking thousands, if not tens of thousands, of these speedboats capable of deploying those mines. So like extreme target, and they can just like pop out of the mountainside. They don't need docks, so it was a lot. Like there was very little chance of America like rushing in and doing the same thing we did in Venezuela. But they called it Operation Camelback. Like camel with two humps. You have one little hump that you get over real easy, and then one big hump, and it's a camel because you end up in the desert, something like that. Or maybe because Kamala's name sounds like camel and they needed her. I don't know. But basically, that all like got tied together in this conspiracy against America, mind you. And I don't know, like definitely when Epstein finally got arrested, like I assumed it was for something else because like none of the information I had given like had come up until like way later. Like way later, it wasn't until there was a special Democratic like the Democratic Party had their own special like meeting on the Epstein stuff, and then when the senators came out and like faced the camera, I told some breadcrumbs. Like I wouldn't call them lies. I told some non-truths in order to just is necessary. I felt it was necessary. And so it really wasn't until that day where I was like, holy crap, that's the information I provided. Like, I remember telling that lie. And it was like little things that didn't matter, but at the same time, like, probably shouldn't have done that, like, in hindsight, considering that it ended up, like, in congressional testimony or whatever. But, live long, let live, whatnot. But speaking of lying, um, in this conversation, the why I personally chose to turn Epstein in. In the course of our conversation, the man is telling me about this plan to lose wholeheartedly, just fully to Iran, just lose, lose, lose. And then basically, with no defense, no offense, no weapons, no long range tomahawks, no nothing, because we used them all up. Basically, China, if they wanted to, could just invade America. Like, it would be so easy for them. And just the fear of that, like, Americans, Congress, like the Senate, the House, would be in a position where they would just have to take a peace deal. Like, they would just have to take any peace deal offered. And that 300 billion where Trump gets a ton of power in Iran, like, basically that was the plan. They were going to just abandon America. We were cutting Medicaid, we're cutting all kinds of programs at home, and then to just give 300 billion to Iran. But apparently, like, America wasted all its soil with exploitive practices, and Iran hasn't done that. And there's some people in some corporate offices who look at the long term, and they see as Iran as being a much stable, like, place, and so they don't want to go anywhere where they're not rich. So basically, by bankrupting Iran's economy, between the tariffs and the war, they can swoop up the real like pennies to the dollar, and then these contracts will make them rich in that currency. So even if they like try to like control how much currency gets traded, there's only so much they can do, because you have these contracts that come in, they get paid out, and then the real, and then that real ends up becoming like worth way more, like relative to other currencies, once like Iran becomes the center of the world. And that's like, it's the plan. Like, that's the plan, is just abandon America, or at least was the plan. I don't know if we're still doing that at this time. Like, it's put up on the table, but hopefully not. But yeah, I had a little bit of a problem with that. But this guy from the golf course, that's how I'm going to have to refer to him, because honestly I have no idea. I know he wasn't CIA, because at one point he said, I'm going to ask the CIA to get Tim Waltz to abuse Medicaid so people don't die when USAID ends. And like, as far as I know, that did happen, but that rules out the guy's not CIA if he had to ask the CIA to do something. So I don't know, unless like that's how he refers to as an employer. Anyway, so let's rule out CIA. I kind of put him as a corporate spy, maybe not necessarily Mossad, considering part of his conversation with me said that the 6-7 thing, like he mentioned the 6-7 thing, but 6 is supposed to be Israel, 7 is supposed to be America, and so 6-7 is basically the scales of justice welcoming our own judgment. And so America's in the situation where we have no military, no weapons, no strategic weapons, I should say. We have our nukes, but China has a laser system that can just shoot them from space, like just heat them up until they explode. And so it's hard to say how effective our nuke arsenal currently is. We haven't like invested in those fun like glide munitions, at least not to the extent that Iran and Russia have. But I don't know. I'm no expert on military strategy. I just know what I heard. And so, yeah, there's that chance that like shit would hit the fan though. And so a lot of these people, a lot of these rich corporate people, built like enclaves using Elon Musk's boring technology. Like, they use that tunnel boring stuff to build themselves like nice cave systems with hydroponics and mini nuclear reactors and you name it, just like able to like live with their families for like multiple generations down in the bunker in case like the world gets destroyed, their plane goes a little bit too far. But like if things go as planned, America would just lose its military, and we'd be forced into an unfavorable peace deal with Iran. That was basically the plan. Um, but the guy said the problem with the plan was the two-man rule. The two-man rule is American policy for nuclear launch codes, where the current like acting president or current president and only one other person on like the list of people. You only need to find one other person to say yes to a nuclear strike. Oh, puppy. And then you can launch a nuclear strike. And considering how unstable like Trump is, like definitely when like the frustration came of not being able to inflict any like actual damage on military targets because they're so hardened under just layer after layer of granite rock, there'd be enough frustration that he might want to launch nuclear weapons just to be able to inflict some damage. And the situation with like Russia have been bogged down for almost a decade at this point. Like it feels like forever. But like as long as they've been bogged down, stuck in the Donbass, like literally two tactical nukes would just change that situation for them. Like if they had the go ahead, like yes, like we can use tactical nukes whenever we feel like it because the battle is too hard without them. Like it set a terrible bad precedent. Like the only thing keeping them from doing that is the fact that no one else has, and like you just can't go to UN as the first. But I mean, it just I don't know. So using nukes not a good option. And the guy said to me that their plan is whoever they are going to use AI to hallucinate a solution to the two-man rule. And I was like, man, you have no idea who you're talking to right now, because I can hallucinate all the time. Like you don't need no computer. And so I decided I was going to hallucinate my own solution. And so knowing that they were going to go to the CIA to give Tim Waltz the go ahead to abuse Medicaid, I went ahead and told Tim Waltz like directly how to abuse Medicaid, knowing knowing that the CIA was going to come to him and tell him the exact same thing. But then I also told him all kinds of other things, like all kinds of other things. And this is not, mind you, Tim Waltz directly. This is like the office of Tim Waltz. I went to one of his aides, and but part of my solution to the two-man rule, my hallucinated solution was to turn in Jeffrey Epstein. So I kind of created a narrative, and then I created a character for myself to fit into this narrative. So I created a story. I'm not going to go into it. It's definitely something that I get to just enjoy for the rest of my days. But I created a storyline, and all of the information I provided was factual, mind you. I just embellished a little bit here and there, and I told a breadcrumb here and there, and but otherwise, like super believable story because, I mean, basically, like at this moment, like it almost seems like I know the future. Like the guy even accused me of being a time traveler at some point, but it's the way I told it to him is it's a lot easier to know the future if you're in the room when it was planned, and being like I don't know an actual like person involved in political office like definitely took upset to that. There's this extra government body like enacting like their will on U.S. policy, and so like it escalated like a lot quicker and a lot sooner than I did. I mean, it was probably a good like 7 months I would say before Epstein was arrested, and so like that was another reason like I didn't assume it was my information that I had personally provided. Like that rumor of him and Donald Trump eating a human chow together, you would think would be what done it. You'd think. Um, but yeah, so if it wasn't for that special Democratic session, or yes, session for the Democrats, like I probably wouldn't have ever even thought it was me. Like, I mean, I definitely like went forward and all that, but like think about how many people have gone forward before me on Epstein. Like, there's a long, long list. But yeah, so like after 2018, 2019, 2020 for me, I knew about the Iran war, like I knew the war plans, I knew about the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. So I got some kids together. This was our organization, OAP, Ohio Anthracol and Pyrolysis. We learned how to make biochar and like small batch basis, and I don't know, like we learned to do our own testing on quality, which a lot of it you can do just like simple tests is like auditory tests where you just basically listen to it, you get it completely dry, and you just hit it together, and like high grade biochar sounds like broken glass, and a lot of the stuff out in like the commercial market just isn't that. And so I don't know, like we did some research into like utility and whatnot. I ran out of money. I was using like only my own money for this charity. Like I was working two jobs, running this charity, and like I definitely once I got COVID myself, like I just ran me into the ground. But I preserved most of the research. Hopefully someone will come and talk to me about it at some point. What we figured the best way would be to build a track or at least a gantry system and have multiple kilns in a greenhouse, and then you could do small batch production, and instead of using like natural gas, which granted is slightly cheaper um, than biomass, um, but all you're getting is the carbon dioxide. Like you'd still get carbon dioxide release from the kiln, but the kiln, like I don't know, it's a sweet system because you light it like right at sunset, and then that thing gets hot and hot and hot, and then it just burns throughout the night, and it's still going to be radiating heat like come morning. And then you can augment like how many kilns you light based on like the needs, like the temperature needs. And I mean, automated, possibly not, but highly productive because once you build the kilns, like you just stack brick, but then by using the gantry, you can pop out the retort and drop in a new retort. And then ideally, you'd have two gantries. One would have a hopper, and one would have a winch. And so you would like hoist out your retort. You drop in a fresh retort, load it up with biomass, and then you'd bring in the hopper, and then you would fill the kiln with additional biomass to use as your ignition source. And the small batch system is just ideal because you can, it's negative carbon, like it's just negative carbon the whole way through. You're using solar energy essentially to produce biomass, and then you take that biomass and you burn it in such a way that it causes the temperature of the retort to hit a critical mass, which causes the hydrogen release, which causes the hydrogen to combust, which causes the temperature to soar to like 3,500, 3,700. It's insane, like how hot that can get just by burning hydrogen off of biomass. It doesn't take long, like within an hour, like that's done. Like all your hydrogen is burned up within the hour, but it causes a flash pyrolysis, and this material, this like crystalline vascular tissue of plants, like it's able to act as a fertilizer, and it's regenerative. It's I don't know, it's amazing stuff, amazing stuff. But most of it's up here, the rest of it's out in my yard, and I don't know. So biochar. So yeah, definitely. Still don't know which way this is gonna go. I'm in favor of not sending all of our troops to their death unnecessarily. It's definitely the team I'm on. But as long as we have a plan, like a plan that doesn't just get turned into peak mist, like maybe take a bunch of helicopters from Qatar, I don't know, something. But I prefer peace. I think so. Peace without handing over every last dollar America's got left in the coffers would be an ideal situation. But peace nonetheless. Um, yeah, the only thing else I can think to add is part of my conversation, not with the 2018 Jeffrey Epstein mutual communique guy, but with my communication with the aide of Tim Waltz. Um, we had this conversation because it came up the whole mind control on Chuck Schumer, and the only other option, like really other than mind control on Chuck Schumer, was that he was actively engaged in throwing democracy. And like considering that a lot of these people on islands happen to be Jewish, like it doesn't look good. It just wouldn't look good. And like I wasn't accusing him of that. Like I really wasn't. Like I mean he's a little bit older, like he's vulnerable to mind control. Like it's just it is what it is. Um but also that could have just been a host. Like he may have just had a really bad idea, and they called it mind control to make themselves feel good. Like I don't know, but either case, I told him if he could pass a message to Chuck for me, and that was, I can never trust a man who doesn't believe in heaven, but I can trust a man who will take a picture of Kash Patel shortly after reviewing the information I provided, and leaving that photo on the internet for as long as possible. So that I believe is why that or that Kash Patel photo exists on the internet. So you're welcome, internet. You are welcome. And that's the only. This is for posterity. Like, is there anything else on this whole turning an Epstein thing that I want to get off my chest? I feel like that's about it. I feel like that's about it. Um, Jeez. I guess I don't know. So yeah, I was super busy when Epstein uh had gotten incarcerated. So like it kind of just like went in one ear, went out the other ear. I was too busy to even like really like process it. Um, wasn't until Alex Preddy had died, killed by ICE in Minneapolis, where like really like came to a head for me. Um, Part of my conversation again with the aide to Tim Walz, like he asked, because Trump had been threatening during this first term to send ICE and break up sanctuary cities, but he was specifically targeting Minneapolis. He wasn't so much protect or picking on others. And so I came up with a plan where we would just bring it to a head. And I, I don't know. It was hard for me. Like just the fact that we orchestrated essentially. I hate to say that. Like we orchestrated the media campaign because what I was looking at was I was looking at dozens of Renee Goods, like dozens of Renee Goods, just people who were just after the whole George Floyd thing, especially. Like I didn't. I mean, I predicted this before the George Floyd thing, just based on what I knew about the people of Minneapolis. But like that situation where people got used to seeing on TV people acting a fool in front of police and walking away just fine, like that attitude of like I'm an American, like my rights are, like just was not going to play the same way against a bunch of untrained thugs. Like it just wasn't. They're not from that town. They have no investment into that community, and so where I was at when I gave my information to bring it to a head, like I was looking at dozens of Renee Goods, like just people who stood up for themselves and maybe just shouldn't have. Maybe they should have just, I don't know. I mean, Islam means surrender. Like sometimes you just gotta find peace, and let it happen. But Minneapolis citizens are not like that, and I respect that. So the plan to bring it to a head as quick as possible was something that we had talked about, and like I even pitched the idea of promoting armed monitors just to increase the chances of someone being killed who had a gun on them, and I did that, and I'm gonna have to live with that. But I do firmly believe that we predicted not only Alex Preddy's death, but we predicted and changed dozens of deaths. We protected thousands of families, and I can live with that, I think. But it did get to me, so that's what I was up to. So after I heard about Jeffrey Epstein and the whole shutdown of Hormuz back in 2018, I started a charity to produce alternative fertilizer, and then I just minded my own damn business until Alex Preddy died, and I've been thinking about a way to get this out, and now just seems like the right time. So thank you, internet. I hope you enjoy once again that Cash Patel photo. And this thing has been way too kind. This is my little puppy.